Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have John Phillips, co-founder of PredictIt, the stock market of politics. We're going to cover the Virginia elections and, of course, the reconciliation bill. John, it's great to see you as always. Welcome back to Trade Talks. And traders on PredictIt seem to be focused on the Virginia election. Tell us about what they're pricing in and why you think their focus is there.
Well, it's so interesting, Jill, because the Virginia election, the outcome of the Virginia election depends on the success that the Biden administration has and Democrats in Congress have in passing some massive legislation, both infrastructure and reconciliation, and to a lesser extent, the debt limit increase. And so that, it's McAuliffe's fortunes are tied in some ways, in the minds of some people, to the success of the legislative agenda. But the Virginia elections are very, very tight, and they're really not supposed to be that tight. Now, traders think by 70 to 30, or 70 to 35, that McAuliffe is going to pull it out. But the polling shows that it's just razor thin at 48.5% for either one of these candidates. And so it's a turnout game, but the traders seem confident that McAuliffe is going to pull it out. Not so confident when it comes to the legislative fracas on Capitol Hill, however.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's so interesting. I have a feeling we'll see a lot of races, more so than we have before, where we see these razor thin margins here, which is pretty interesting. Let's take a look at the reconciliation bill. And this is one of the reasons why we will see one of these razor thin margins if they can't pull anything out. What are traders pricing in terms of when they think it will get passed and for what amount?
Well, it's good that you point out the time frame on this, because traders are generally pessimistic. And the most popular bracket for infrastructure and for reconciliation is that it's going to fail. That's the most popular bracket. However, there's a significant percentage of traders that the legislation in the case of infrastructure is going to pass. They just debate what the margin is going to be in the House, and they think it's going to pass, of course, by November 1st. With reconciliation, it's by the 19th of November. Again, there's overall pessimism, but the traders do believe that in the end, groups of traders think it's going to pass again by a squeaker.
Certainly something to look forward to. It's going to be another busy couple of months for those folks on Capitol Hill. Great to see you, John. It always is. And, as we're coming towards the end of the year, before I let you go here, not only are we dealing with supply chain constraints and inflation, and it feels like it's the perfect storm for everything that we're seeing within the reconciliation bill and what's happening. We can't even logistically get some of these things off the ground, and they kind of all, revert back to one another.
Well, isn't that is interesting, isn't it? I mean, the Democrats in the last couple of weeks have been emphasizing, especially Representative Khanna, have been emphasizing that the president needs a climate change win on Capitol Hill to take to the climate accord discussions that are going to be going on in Scotland later this week. It's sort of like wanting to get make sure the drapes in the house, the new drapes in the house and the upholstery there before the relatives come over for the holiday. The fact of the matter is, it's sort of a tail wagging the dog. Some members are focused on, and I don't think the focus is on the part of the public, but what some members are focused on is specific elements of the reconciliation agreement. And they seem to be in favor of the infrastructure, but they're holding the reconciliation. They're holding that hostage to get specific big ticket items in the reconciliation. And some of those preferences are going to get thrown off the bus.
Right. And John, I guess to a certain extent, or maybe rightly so, and I'm just speaking for myself as a constituent of these people that represent us, for those of us who commute in the New York, New Jersey area, we are very well aware of how our infrastructure is crumbling on our commuter lines and in our metro lines and so forth. We see in our streets, our roads, our bridges, being able to go to and from safely, I think, is the everyday person's preference if they had to pick between this and some other packages that might be a little bit more high level than what we immediately need right now. And again, that goes back to your point with these razor thin margins, because if you can't get some of these packages passed, and we're holding, it's almost like we're letting perfect be the enemy of good, if that makes any sense.
It does, and I hear that a lot, and I think your sentiment is shared by a lot of people. I'm voting in Virginia this weekend, by the way. I'm not going to tell you who I'm going to vote for. Mm-hmm. the fact of the matter is, there's, first of all, Jill, there's supposed to be disagreement when you're spending this much money. It's not supposed to get rubber stamped or killed outright without discussion. So there are many elements to the infrastructure bill where there's general consensus, but also to the bigger social spending package. If everything is a priority, you have no priorities. Mm-hmm. Part of the problem here. And so the focus on the size of the infrastructure bill, traders are right now saying it's going to be $1.7 to $2 trillion will be the eventual size of the spending bill. That's a lot of money, and it's a lot less than was originally proposed. And there's some accounting gimmicks in the bill to bring the price down, sunsetting some of these programs, which once they're in place, no one's going to want to do without them. No one's going to vote against them. So it's it's fascinating. And what a lot of voters in these districts represented by moderate Republicans and moderate Democrats, what they want is they want to be able to just get to work without wrecking their car in a pothole. And some of this is basic politics 101. So if there's nothing delivered by the end of the year, there's going to be a reckoning.
Interesting. All right, John. Well, that's why we have you here. Thanks so much for joining us. As always, I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thank you, Jill.